Have someone from Washington. Awesome, great. Thank you, Angie. Great, we have some people from Portland. Welcome, welcome. So good to have you guys here. And some friendly faces. Hi, Wendy. All right. We're not going to wait too long here. We're going to maybe wait 1 more minute and then we're going to get started with our presentation here. So again, if you haven't yet, head into the chat. Even if you were with us before, it's just good to have the little refresher. Tell us about yourself. What is your role? Where are you from? That would be so helpful to us. Happy 2022, everyone. I hope that it's been a good start to the year. I definitely am tired, but excited to be back working with students. All right, and if you just joined us, go ahead and find the chat. Please let us know a little bit about yourself. What is your role on a mostly daily basis? And then where are you from? Where are you working? Or, you know, what is your connection to dyslexia? We're always super interested. All right, Angie, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, it's fun to see where everyone is from. It's neat. Looks like a lot of Oregon this time. One Washington. It's neat. Like it. Okay, so a few like groundkeeping things. Welcome if you haven't been here before, or if we're new to you. I'm Angie, and a few things just to know up front. You will get an email following this with a copy of the slideshow, a recording of our presentation this evening, and PDUs if you need those. So that will come in an email following up. So everything that you see on slides will be sent to you, and a recording of this. A note about the recording is that we're kind of in the process of learning all this also, and we're really happy to share our journey of learning more about how kids learn how to read and dyslexia. But there are true experts out there that if you are wanting to share this information, we don't feel like we're the best to play this recording for your school staff or to post it on social media or anything like that, because there are other people that if you're going to watch a webinar that are better experts than we are. So we record this for people that registered and couldn't make it tonight so they can watch it, or people if you want to rewatch it or re-find anything. So we just ask that with the recording, when you get a copy of it, that you don't post it or share it for people that haven't already registered for the class. So just because we're not the true experts. So, but you will get a copy of the recording and the slideshow. Please feel free to, we like to make this interactive. So please use the chat to add thoughts, add questions, add information, share resources. So use the chat and keep it a busy place. That's really, we really like that a lot, because that just makes this more collaborative for all of us. And the other thing that I would love to have you type in the chat now is just a Y or an N for a yes or no if you've seen us before. So we've been doing presentations about once a month this year. And so we're just kind of curious how many of you have seen us before, if you already know us, if we're new to you. Like Becca said, we do see a lot of familiar names, so we are getting to know you. And then we know that we might be some people have been to a lot and we're new to some people. That's exciting. So we're going to tell you a little bit about us, and then kind of jump into syllables. So we are part of an organization called Decoding Dyslexia. Decoding Dyslexia is a nonprofit organization that has actually a national level, and then they have state levels, and then we have started kind of a South Valley chapter of it. So it's a big collaboration of a nonprofit that works in a very grassroots way, and we get a lot of support from them also. So for our Decoding Dyslexia presentations this year, we came up with this once a month presentation idea of focusing on a different piece of reading every month. So tonight's presentation is about syllables, and then next month we're talking about spelling, and we just focus on different things, different times. So this is just one piece of a bigger puzzle, I guess, is what I'm trying to share with you. So my name is Angie Pebworth. I am a first grade teacher. I've been teaching for 17 years, and I've taught mostly first and second grade. I got into this dyslexia and reading kind of interest because my own son has dyslexia, and he's a 7th grader now, but when he was young, he was one of those kids that the teachers who are fantastic and I were both like, it'll click, it'll click, it'll click. He's really smart, it'll come together. And even at that point, I had been teaching for long enough as a 1st and 2nd grade teacher that even I didn't recognize his signs of dyslexia and didn't really know why he wasn't learning how to read. And then as we kind of figured it out, my world kind of exploded, and I realized how much I really didn't know about how kids learn how to read. And it just helped. I just kind of dove into this world of learning more and more and becoming really passionate about what is best instruction in reading and what dyslexia really looks like in kids in our classrooms. So I've also discovered that I have a touch of signs of dyslexia, and my dad has it too. So there's some family connections that I've found along the way too. Becca, you want to tell us about you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Becca Hauge. I'm a special education teacher here in the Fern Ridge School District. I worked directly with Angie and we carpool, so we are always talking about dyslexia and how we can improve our instruction to help and support students. I have taught 11 years and I've taught kind of at all levels. I've taught at the high school level for quite a few years, middle school, and then elementary is my other big time frame. I got to go to the Oregon intensive training that happened in, I think, 2018. So at that point, when I went through like several days of intensive training, I learned a lot and like was super fascinated with dyslexia. And I also figured out that I also have signs of dyslexia, which may come out when we do our presentations because it is in the evening. I tend to mix up words or use the wrong words. So if you hear me use the wrong words, that's because that's my dyslexia showing. So I've been really interested in dyslexia and learning about it, and it definitely runs in my family, although no one is officially diagnosed with it. So, and I'm a special ed teacher, obviously, so I work a lot with students that show signs of dyslexia. So I'm always trying to look for new ways to help them and support them.
So tonight we're talking about syllables, and we were both really excited for this one because syllables is something that Becca and I really like to kind of nerd out about, and we were really fascinated in it. And I think one of the reasons why I love syllables so much is because just a few years ago, I didn't really realize how important they were. And as a primary teacher, I did do, clapping syllables a few times here and there, but I really never knew what a syllable was, why it was so important. And I never knew that there were certain types and that there's actually a pattern to it. So I used to be the teacher that said, when a kid said, oh, how do you spell? And they gave me a long word, I would just say, oh, here you go. Let me write that down for you. It's a hard one. And now I know that my students, even primary students, can learn what syllables are and tackle bigger words in very logical ways. So now I can say, oh, how many syllables does that word have? And, oh, I know you know how to spell that first syllable. Let's break down that second syllable. What sounds do you hear? Or which sound don't you know? Or once students know syllable types, instead of even telling them how to spell a word, you can say, oh, that syllable is a magic E syllable. And then they know how to spell it because they know it follows a pattern. So I went from like doing a lot of the thinking to giving them the tools to know how to do it when I realized that syllables really make words make sense. To the point where my students know, like, you can read any word in the universe if you know syllables. So
and I would say the same thing. Like she said, we nerd out about syllables. Syllables are probably one of my favorite things now that I've learned about dyslexia and how to instruct students that have signs of dyslexia. It's kind of like math. I mean, I'm really good at math and I love math, but I think I love syllables and spelling more now compared to when I was in 4th grade and I hated spelling because I could not spell because I was not taught any of these skills. So now I'm like super excited for everything that we're going to go through tonight. Okay, so just a little review. So those of you that have been with us before, go use the bathroom, get a drink or something. This is going to be things that you've seen before, but we are going to go a little faster through. And so please review the slides if you get lost and or ask questions. All right, so basis for syllables it's super important that students have phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, which we talked about in previous presentations. So this is just the little diagram that I really like. So phonological awareness is the overarching idea that there are all these skills that students need to have in order to be able to read and to spell. So phonological awareness is being able to count words in a sentence, be able to find the syllable, which we'll talk about today, onsett rhyme, rhyming, and then phonemic awareness, which has all the other components under it as well. So if your student is struggling to hear some of these things, there might be signs of dyslexia, because phonological awareness is like the big red flag that if students have areas in one of these categories, they're possibly dyslexic. All right, so what is a syllable? So I just Googled and then I put on here where I pulled these from. So I thought these definitions were super helpful. So a syllable is a unit pronunciation having one vowel sound with or without surrounding consonants, forming the whole or part of a word. Okay, so for a syllable, you need a vowel sound and then maybe also consonants. And then the other definition that I found was from HarperCollins dictionary. It says a syllable is a part of a word that contains a single vowel sound and that is pronounced as a unit. Okay, so a unit, so when you have a vowel sound and then a consonant, the syllable means that they're together. You pronounce them together in order to have a syllable. Okay, so we're going to get into what that looks like, but that is the hardcore definitions there.
And because a syllable is the center of a syllable is the vowel sound, and vowel sounds are sounds that we can sing. If you look at songs, they're maybe always, depending on how fast you sing them, I guess, almost always divided into syllables. So if you look at Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, every syllable is separated with notes. And this is a great example of, if you're not sure syllables, it's right there in songs. So syllable is a sound. Vowel sounds are the songs that we can, the vowel sounds are the sounds that we can sing. So we sing syllables, really, if that makes sense. So taking a look at the bigger picture, this is the simple view of reading. This is the reading rope. It's called the Scarborough rope too. And this kind of is a great picture of all the complex skills that go into reading. And we are talking about just one little part, and it's not even one strand of the reading. It's like one part of the decoding and encoding of reading. Syllables also falls a little bit under phonological awareness. Well, a lot under phonological awareness of being able to hear them. But tonight we're going to mostly be talking about decoding and encoding the reading and the writing of syllables. So we're going to be kind of focusing on that. And it's a really important part that feeds into that rope, but it is also just one strand of it, or one part of one strand of it. This is one of my favorite graphics. And yes, this has been updated. And last month, I think we didn't have the updated one yet. So I need to go back and do that. So those of you that are aware of this, there is a more updated version of this, but the essence of this image is really the same and is really important. So this is the ladder of reading, and it kind of shows where students fall in your classroom and what they need in order to become successful readers and writers. Structured literacy, explicit teaching is essential for kids with signs of dyslexia. It's things that they absolutely really need in order to succeed as readers and writers. But the beauty of this is that it's also the best teaching for all students. So when our students with signs of dyslexia get taught in the systematic and explicit way of what is syllables and here's the syllable types, that's essential for them, but it's benefiting all of our students. So all of our students really do best with this kind of instruction. And that's one thing that I love, because it means that we're not wasting our time doing whole group lessons just for these dyslexic kids. It's like we're doing excellent teaching with all kids for this. If that makes sense. I kind of rambled there, but.
Thanks, Angie. All right, so kind of like we talked about in our previous presentation, signs of dyslexia are very prevalent when students are reading and or writing. So I gave some examples here on the screen where you've probably noticed a person or a child having difficulty with reading words because they misread them or misspelling words. I do have on here reversing letters, which is oftentimes what people maybe in the 90s and 80s really thought dyslexia was reversals. But like we said last time, reversals, not everyone that is dyslexic reverses. I never reversed anything. And also, just because you reverse letters doesn't mean you're dyslexic, okay? So just be aware of that. It is really having to do with sounds, that phonological awareness, and then it comes out in writing as well. So as we think about syllables, just keep that in the back of your mind, you know, that students that struggle with reading and or writing, syllables are really going to help them concretely be able to understand how our symbols go together in order to read words or even to write them. And if they're having a hard time with spelling, like that's where you're really going to see that. Syllables is really going to give them like the directions or the map of how to use our system so that you can read and write. Okay, so just a little bit of vocabulary again. I'm not going to go spend a ton of time on this because we did it in our last presentation. So a phoneme is the scientific name for the smallest sound used in our language. And then we map that onto paper with a grapheme. So the grapheme is the actual symbol, okay? So we'll talk about that later, and I do give some examples here where graphemes is more than one symbol. So AR would be a grapheme. And those are those words. Right?
Yep. So a vowel versus a consonant. A vowel is, a vowel is a sound that you say with your mouth, generally open or in some way not really blocking the flow of air. Whereas a consonant is a sound that you say with at least partial blocking of air and your mouth can be closed. So those are kind of general definitions, but it kind of also goes back to the vowel is the sound that you can sing. When we sing and stretch out a note, we stretch out a vowel sound. We don't stretch out consonants. So a consonant has some kind of blocking of airflow. A vowel has open airflow. And these are actually really important for us to know as teachers. We should be experts on what, if I hear a sound, I should be able to know if it's a vowel or a consonant, not just because memorized, but I should kind of know how that feels. So it's a little abstract, but it's also very important to know.
And I also teach my students to know and to be able to identify a vowel and a consonant. And you'll see why, because we're going to show you tonight what that means. So our next vocabulary word is a diphthong. We're going to spend a lot of time with this one later on in the presentation, but it's the idea that you typically have two letters and you are making a new sound by starting with the first sound and then moving to the next sound. So these are different than vowel teams, which we'll also be talking about tonight. So according to ThoughtCo, their rule of thumb is that if the sound moves, it's a diphthong. So if you think of oi as in toy, oi, it's not the same as o or ah. I'm starting with o and then ending with oi. So I'm moving the sound. The sound is moving from one sound to the next, and that's what makes it a diphthong. And then there's a bunch of other examples, which we'll talk about later.
And diphthongs are vowel sounds. It's just a movement of your mouth as you're making it. So vowels versus vowel sounds. A lot of times we have kids recite, a lot of times we say A-E-I-O-U are the 5 vowels, and we can all recite those and kids can recite those. I like to add Y to that because Y is actually a vowel in over 2,000 words. And it's a consonant and I'm pretty sure the number is 74. I typed that in, but I let somebody borrow my book. Is that right?
Yeah, I have your book.
Okay, perfect. Good. I
can double check.
So yeah,
that sounds
so
right.
It's 70 something. It's either 74 or 76, I'm pretty sure. So Y is actually a vowel way more than it's a consonant. So I like to say the vowels are A-E-I-O-U and mostly Y or often Y. Now and then W is a vowel too when it's part of a vowel team or diphthong. So O-W, A-W is that W is I might have said that wrong there. I might have had my my words flipped around. The W can be a vowel when it's part of a team like that. And also to point out, when we're looking for vowels in words, a QU, the U is not considered a vowel sound in that word. So vowels are the letters that we often go to. But what's really important when you're talking about syllables is not the vowels exactly, but the vowel sounds. And this is where it's a little more complicated. So English, people often say that English has 18 vowel sounds. And so if somebody, so kids should know that, and we shouldn't just be able to say, you know, there's 5 vowels in English. We should be able to say there's 18 vowel sounds. And so it's easy to think of the short A and the short vowels and the long vowel sounds, which can be spelled in different ways. There's lots of different ways to spell these. Some of the other vowel sounds are like some of those diphthongs, the oi and ow, and then this little graphic didn't quite have the R. I added the R controlled vowels because those are considered vowel sounds. So R, or, are considered vowel sounds. And then I'm not exactly sure, because if I stop there, it's 18. And I really think that air and or is a different sound. So I kind of wonder if it could be argued that maybe there's 20 vowel sounds. I don't know. I'm not sure why air is a different one. But so sometimes I've seen 18, but that doesn't include air and or. But to be clear, there's 18 vowel sounds if you include just the short R controlled vowels. So R is one sound and it's a vowel sound. Ah or oi is one vowel sound. A or a are different vowel sounds, but they're vowel sounds. So it's not just vowels written, but it's vowel sounds that we are going to talk a lot about when we talk about syllables.
And something maybe to look into, we don't have a picture in this slideshow, but the vowel valley has all the vowel sounds, and it has to do with how your mouth is moving. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go talk to your speech and language pathologist or find a speech and language pathologist, because they can explain it to you very well. I talk to mine all the time. All right, so the next one is the schwa. And you'll notice up on the right corner, I've got that upside down E. That's how it's represented when you see it in a dictionary. And the idea of the schwa is that it's a vowel that's being lazy, is what I've heard, but it's also a muffled vowel sound. So it's not saying the typical sound that we would say if we were reading it according to, you know, how we teach vowel sounds, right? And it's mostly on the unstressed vowel. So I have some examples. These should look familiar if you've been with us before. So say some of these to yourself. So if I look at like this word here, the E is underlined. So if I say this normally, problem, the E is not saying which it should be saying. It should be problem, but that's not how we pronounce it. So the E is becoming a schwa. So that's just something you really need to pay attention to as we're going through the syllables, and we'll kind of emphasize some strategies you can use with students to help them as they're reading. So the word, I don't say it like that. I say chocolate. So I don't say that middle O. Same with camera. Interest, several. So it feels weird to say them the way that they're actually written, but that's just something else to pay attention to. So as you're thinking of presenting words to students, just make sure you go through your list. And if you come to a word and you present it to students and there's a schwa or a missing sound, then you tell the kids, you know. I've done it multiple times where I've had to explain to kids what was missing there. So, but that's pretty normal, and kids will love that too. So those are schwas.
So 2 really important words that I hope you know, but that are really good for us to know and use is decode and encode. And basically decoding is reading. It's using that letter sound knowledge to read. Encode is using that letter sound knowledge to write. And these are so intertwined that really they must go together. So reading and writing cannot be separated. Reading is breathing in, writing is breathing out. That's a saying that is well known in the reading world, and it's really a cycle. So we can't really teach kids how to be effective readers without teaching them how to sound out these words as writers. It has to be connected. So this kind of goes a little bit deeper or a little bit more into the schwa that Becca was talking about. And it's just kind of an acknowledgement that spoken syllables and written syllables are not always the same. And this can make it so it's a little complicated when we're trying to encode words, when we're trying to take a word that we know and spell it out using syllables. It just needs to be an awareness that we need to teach kids and be aware of ourselves. And it really comes down to that as humans, we're lazy speakers. So one thing is we accent syllable, and by saying it louder and clearer and saying the vowel sounds, and that usually means all the other syllables or the unaccented syllables often go to the schwa. So it's hard to hear the sound in there. And then like Becca said, we drop some syllables altogether. So my class yesterday, we were going around and we were clapping student names, which is a very common teacher trick to practice syllables and counting syllables. And it was like a time filler, and we were kind of doing it quick, and we got to Catherine and we said Catherine. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's not her name, it's Catherine. But we never call her Catherine, we call her Catherine. So it was tricky because her name is 3 syllables written, but when we're saying Catherine, we say Catherine. We don't call her Catherine. And maybe grandma does or mom does or something, but as a casual teacher and a classmate, we say Catherine because it's faster. And so it was, we just pointed that out of like a lot of times we speak faster and drop some sounds off. So as teachers, we need to really be aware of that, and we can point that out to kids. So being aware of that means that when we're decoding, when we're reading, we need to be flexible with how we test out accents in words and schwa vowels, and just kind of search and find the word that we're trying to say. So when I'm sounding out a word, I might need to try and play with the schwa in different places to figure out what word I'm really searching for when I'm decoding it. When I'm encoding or writing, sometimes we need to be aware that there might be a spelling in there that that we're missing. There might be a syllable that we're missing, or we need to really enunciate it and speak it really clearly. And, you know, I think a lot of us do this with the word Wednesday. We say Wednesday, but when we go to write it, when we go to encode Wednesday, a lot of us, especially us with signs of dyslexia, have to write Wednesday and sound it out and say it clearly in order to spell it. So just kind of being aware of that and how that makes this whole thing a little bit more complicated. But even with that complexity, syllables are so worth it for reading and writing because there's still so many benefits from knowing these.
Okay, so some prerequisite. Oh yeah.
Can I add one more thing that I forgot to make a slide for this, but I think this is a good place to add this in, is because I was talking about how we count syllables. So I just wanted to point out that that there's kind of some different tricks for counting syllables, and a lot of times we clap them out, but there's a few different ways that we've seen this done, and I try to do them all with kids so that so whatever works for the kid works. And so often you can hear it if you add some kind of sound or rhythm. Sometimes people swoop or hop with their hands, and what's hard about that is it's not as defined. So I like clapping. Becca and I have talked about this. Clapping gives it a definition for each syllable. So we say watermelon, and it's very clear how many syllables we've clapped. But a few other tricks if kids are having a hard time hearing syllables and saying them out loud. One trick, some teachers do chin drops, because the core of a syllable is the vowel sound, and the vowel is the flow of air. It's how many times you should open your mouth if you're exaggerating the movement. So sometimes teachers will call a syllable chin drop. So we'll go pumpkin, and it's how many times your mouth is open. A very similar thing is feeling your jawbone in your ear. So if you put a finger in an ear and say a word, you can, if this works for you, if you're this kind of learner, you can feel your jawbone move, and it's counting the syllables. So I could say pumpkin, and I can actually feel the 2 bumps with my finger in my ear. I can feel my jawbone move. So try it. say watermelon, watermelon, or cow is one syllable, monkey. And so that's another trick. And then another trick, if kids are really struggling with it, because of the core of a syllable is the vowel sound, and that's the sound we can sing. Sometimes I tell kids that if you take a word and turn it into a lost dog, call that dog's name, and we get kind of silly with it because a lot of times when you're calling a lost dog, it's like singing and you're stretching out the vowel sound. So I'll say, let's call my lost dog, his name is Table, and we'll go table. And it's clear to hear that there's two syllables. Let's call my lost dog, his name is Cow, cow. We can hear it's one. So that's a way to kind of force kids to stretch out the vowel sound, which is the core of a syllable. So there's kind of a few different tricks on how to count those syllables. Clapping seems like the default, but there's a few other ways to make that multisensory. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Angie. That was perfect. Okay, so prerequisites. So these are some skills that are pretty essential for your learners before you start teaching them syllable types. So the first being that they need to be able to identify a symbol, a grapheme, so our written symbol of our sound, and connect it to the phoneme. So if you present an R, they know it says or if you ask them to write a they write an M, okay? So that is important because this is kind of the next step with that. Again, I would specifically teach them what are vowels and what are consonants, and even saying that Y is mostly a vowel, but it also is a consonant. And then having them identify that. A lot of times teachers will have the vowels displayed. I have a lot of vowel displayed on student desks because my students forget often what a vowel is. And then I point to them, these are the vowels, remember? And that's super important. Having a phonological awareness of syllables. So that's what Angie was just talking about. So them being able to clap them out. Now, if they struggle with being able to find all the syllables, by teaching how to write syllables will reinforce that idea and hopefully help them hear it better. So if this isn't super solid, that's okay, but it is important that they kind of understand that words are broken down, but not broken down into sounds, broken down into syllables, okay, which are two different things. And I would not teach those two concepts at the same time. I'm finding that that is confusing for students because both of those words, syllable, sound, start with s, and they confuse that. So just be aware of that. And then the other thing too that would be really helpful for them to know is that they can read a one syllable word. So if they're still struggling with decoding, so you present them with ran and they're still taking a long time to go and then put that together and blend it to make a word, teaching syllable types will be very difficult. So they really should have that solid, and not just with real words, but with nonsense or pseudo words, which we are going to be presenting to you with all of the syllable types. And then I would also recommend that students know what a digraph or a consonant is once you get past some of the first couple syllable types, just because it will help them understand what's going on with letters. And you'll kind of see it as we keep going why that is important for them to know. So. All right, and just a reminder, thanks to everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to chime in the chat and let us know. We're gonna get into the nitty-gritty now.
Not just questions in the chat, but if you have anything to add or resources or yes, this is great, or I tried this also, just feel free to make that a space where we can share and ask and collaborate. Okay, so a little bit of information about the English language. And one reason why this stuff is really important is that a lot of times our go-to saying is English doesn't make sense. It's just a weird language. There's a lot of little jokes about it too, and about how English is so weird. And we need to stop saying that because it's really not so weird and it really does make a lot of sense. And if you know the spelling rules and if you know syllable types, 85% of English words are decodable if you know the common patterns. Another 12% of them only have one sound or one phoneme that doesn't follow the rule. A lot of times it's a vowel. And then another 12% can be figured out with phonics or the context. So a lot of things can be still figured out too. So English actually does make sense, and you can figure out most of it if we have taught the rules. Growing up, I never learned these rules. And in teaching college, I never learned the rules. So I didn't realize how easy it is to really know how to decode words if I know spelling rules and if I know syllable types. So this stuff really matters, and it can really make a very what seems complex very simple in a lot of ways. I think that we don't need to go to this chart tonight because that's some stuff that some previous knowledge from last time, but that shows some graphemes or phonemes like and how to pronounce them. So that's a good link that we had on there from before that we kept on there. Okay, so best practices. This is true with all teaching of reading, and it's really true with syllables as well. Syllables can be taught to all ages, first of all. A lot of times we think syllables and syllable clapping is a K1 thing or a K1-2 thing, but these syllable types should, I really feel like they should be a K12 instruction. My 7th grader has not ever learned these, and as a dyslexic 7th grader, he, well, he's learning them now because we're paying for private tutoring. But our kids don't know this because we haven't ever as teachers really been taught how to teach this. And so because of that, it really needs to be taught to all ages, and it needs to be taught K-12. And once if we, you know, anyway, so it's important and it's not a primary thing. And as you teach syllables, it's important to teach them explicit and systematic and multisensory. Explicit means that we are directly explaining what a syllable is. This is a closed syllable. This is why. Here's how you know. Let's practice. Systematic means that we do it in a way that makes sense. And multisensory means that it's not just us babbling to them. It's not just us reading. They're writing it. There's hand motions. There's ways to practice it that involves more than just input and reading. So kind of to step back from syllables for a minute to acknowledge something that's really important. We're going to actually be talking about this in the future, but what's really important to, and again, our presentations are once a month, and there are all these little details that together really kind of make the big picture of how to teach kids to read to write. So this is an acknowledgement that we're talking about syllables, but you really, to really decode multi-syllabic words, you need to know about morphology too. And you need to know what a base word is, and you and your students need to know what a base word is and what prefixes and suffixes are, those affixes, because prefixes and suffixes are not syllable types. So when we're teaching kids, we need to just make sure that we are also teaching them, when we're teaching them syllable types, we need to also be teaching them morphology and prefixes and suffixes, because those they can look similar to, they can look like syllable types, but they're different. They're not syllables, and they're not one of the 7 syllable types. So if we can teach them to look for the root word and look for syllable types in there and separate those prefixes, and we know what those mean, and separate the suffixes and we know what those mean. Do you have anything to add to that, Becca?
No, but to come to our morphology presentation.
Yeah.
Which I think is linked, right? It'll be linked to this slide. So please sign up and come if you don't know anything about morphology, because it's fascinating.
And next month we're doing spelling, and then the month after we're doing morphology, and this week we're doing, you know, and obviously tonight we're doing spelling. And it's all so connected that it's really important. Okay, so this is a fun task to do as a teacher for us to kind of test and see if we have learned what a syllable really is. And it's also a great task to give to kids and see if they, as they're learning these syllable types, what is a syllable even, and what includes a syllable. So just take a minute and see if you can find the ones, either find the ones that are syllables or the ones that aren't. I'm not looking for real words, I'm looking for syllables. So see if you can kind of figure out which one of these would be considered a syllable and which one of these would not. How many, maybe type in the chat the ones that aren't. See if we want to make this interactive tonight. Or we just reveal the answers and go on. Let's do that. So a syllable has to have a vowel sound. So anything without a vowel is automatically not a syllable. And one way that this is a nice trick is sometimes there are words that are pronounced kind of, we stretch out sounds and they're kind of tricky, but if you go back to, is there a syllable there, you can figure out if it's a syllable in itself or not. So yeah. Okay, so we are going to jump into the 7 syllable types. And to first acknowledge kind of upfront, some people say there's 6 syllable types and some people say there's 7 syllable types. So we're going to present tonight the idea that there's 7 syllable types. And when people say that there's 6, they combine vowel team and diphthong into one chunk. So so just to kind of acknowledge that we're saying 7, but other places have made it into 6. And so there's 7 syllable types, and we're going to go through them individually: closed, open, consonant LE, R controlled, magic E, vowel team, and diphthong. Becca is going to take it away.
Okay, welcome students. I would recommend, if you have a whiteboard or a piece of paper and a pen, it might be helpful, just because sometimes when you write things down, it makes more sense to us, but you don't have to have it. You can just watch, because I will try and show as best I can how to do that. If you notice in the last slide, I kept hitting the links. So everything is linked when you get this. So including this large poster, which is in color, that you can get for free on Teacher Pay Teacher, and it's from maketaketeach.com. And they even have a blog. And then also over here on the right, there are these awesome hand signals, which we've just started using this year. I think Angie found these, and these are by Elizabeth Volland. And each of these are nice and large, and they're only like $1.50. I just bought them because I use them anyways. So our first syllable type is closed. So make a fist. Closed. You did it. Okay, so our first syllable type is where we take a vowel and it's followed by a consonant closing it off. So you'll notice that there are several examples, some of which are multisyllabic, meaning there are more than one syllable in the word. And I'm going to first present ones that are single syllable, so that way you can see what's happening. And then we'll look at multisyllabic as well. And again, you'll notice that there is a V for vowel, and it has this little swoop above it, which is indicating that it is the short sound of the vowel. And then again, a C for consonant. All right, so here are some examples for the short vowel followed by a consonant, or the closed syllable type. These are all the real words. The first one being at. You'll notice to the right, I rewrote it and I highlighted the vowel A. And what I have students do is I have them find the vowel, and I often have them underline it. And then I have them put a V for vowel underneath, and then have them find the consonant at the afterwards. So it's not all of the consonants, it's just the one right after, and I have them put a C for consonant. So they're already diagramming how our system works to help them really learn the language, and well, how to read and how to write it. Notice that you should be presenting words that have QU, so that they're able to see that Q and U go together. They're buddies, they can't be separated, and you do not pronounce the U because it's part of the Q. Same with having words with X, because X has more than one sound. Okay, so that way they're also hearing that there might be more than one sound represented by one letter, or more than one letter, like in clutch. Okay, here are some nonsense words. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I will for this slide. So we have shap, fen, quam, drim, yunk. Okay, so that is the idea, that you want students to be able to read and spell real words and nonsense words. And the reason we're really big in nonsense words is that you have to think about students, especially at like the first grade level, where students can start learning these syllable types easily. They're going to be confronted with words, reading and spelling that they aren't going to know. So it's going to look like a nonsense word to them, when really it's not a nonsense word at all, but having them practice with nonsense words prepares them to read words that they don't know. So it actually is very beneficial, and then also helps you see, do they actually know the sounds and do they actually know the rule? And they're not just going from memory, because even though memorizing is how we've taught spelling for forever, I would recommend you don't have them memorize spelling lists. I think that we should be teaching them syllable types and spelling rules. Okay, so here are some examples for the closed syllable type. And for each of these are multisyllabic words. So again, that means that there's more than one syllable in the word. All of these are closed syllable. So napkin, napkin. It's 2 syllables. Nap is the first syllable, and it is the short vowel sound, so it's closed. And then kin is also the short vowel sound, so it's a closed. And I know that because right afterwards, it's followed by a consonant. And then this is where you have to be careful. Like when I say the word mitten, if I was giving this to students, I would say mit-ten, mit-ten. So I would emphasize how the E should sound so that they're not getting confused by the schwa. Here are some nonsense words. Try and read them to yourself. Okay, so we have Yaftim, Tishmik, Hemdest, Predstat, Tapstad, Skrez, Plock. Okay, so you can give some challenging nonsense words too, which is kind of fun with learning these syllable types. Okay, we went from closed now to open. And I would teach closed first because most students are learning how to read CVC words anyways. And that is the natural progression that we would want to teach this. So next is open. Notice that again, we have single syllable words and then multisyllabic. You'll notice though with the multisyllabic that students will have to know some other things. So I'll show that to you here in a second. So open syllable is where the vowel is saying its name and nothing follows it. So when you look at my examples, hi, find your vowel, which is the I. Is there anything after it? No. This can be very tricky for students if they don't understand before and after. So make sure that if their language, like they can't explain to you that they're like pointing or that you're showing or they're circling, that there's nothing there afterwards. I found that I had 4th graders that were struggling between before and after this year. So it's super important that they're understanding that it's at the end of the word that there's nothing, or sorry, at the end of the vowel, which in these words is at the end of the word. And then I represent a long vowel sound where vowel says its name with the line above it, because that's how it's in dictionaries. And then also some of the reading programs. So if you're using Reading Mastery, that's an easy connection because students are already seeing that in the program. Okay, nonsense words. So we have zay, re, cho, jai. I put the U in here because U has 2 sounds, grew or grew. The second way is harder to pronounce. And then there's that Y, like in the word sigh. So multisyllabic words. Notice here on the left, I have my closed syllable type, which you should be reviewing with students, and then open. And this is super important that you do both, that you review these, because you can't really spell any words with 2 open syllable types very well. I mean, the word lady, which was on the slide, is there, but the Y is not really following that rule of what Y should say, okay? So just be aware of that. So here are my examples. So I have silent, so a student should be able to spell that. And then what I would do after they would write it out and separate it, have them identify the vowels. Then I ask them what syllable type it is. And I'll say, okay, that first syllable, is it open or closed? And they can easily tell me by showing a hand signal. And it gets to be very helpful because then you can see, okay, is the kid really understanding the difference between an open and a closed syllable? So the hand signals are really nice to show that. You can even show a student, oh, that's a closed one. You're missing a sound at the end. So there are some more examples. I do apologize. Ozone doesn't really fit what students would know because ozone is following a different syllable type, but I put it in here anyways because, you know, I'm a teacher, I make mistakes. All right, and then we have nonsense words. And I'm not going to read them all to you, but the idea is that we're going to split after the vowel so that the first vowel is open. So this would be tree, bat. Same with the next one. We're splitting after the vowel, so it'd be thry, num. Okay, so the next one, so it is ski, thoth. And all of my examples have the open syllable type at the beginning. You can have it at the end. I would focus with it at the beginning because that's typically when you'll see it in words. Here's an awesome example. This is not my door yet, but you can easily show students with a door your open and closed syllable types. So the first side on the left there is the open syllable type. So they should be able to read all of those words. And then when you close the door and you add on a consonant, it changes the word and the sound of the vowel. And then they're practicing reading closed syllables. So I'd encourage you to do that. It's super helpful. All right, our next syllable type is the magic E.
Can I jump in too?
Yeah, go for it.
One thing to do with the open and closed is to make little open and closed doors. And so you can do this with a lot of words, and kids can make these and you can make them for worksheets. And if you just, if the door is closed, and you can even, I just did this really fast right now. So you could even make it cute and make the D on a door or something like that. So when the door is closed, the E says eh, and it's a closed syllable. Open the door, and it's an open syllable. And so the E changes from eh to E. And they can have a little hands-on thing that matches that open and closed door also. So just wanted to share, because that's a resource that people have used.
And I think that there are some resources you can print for free that are the same idea, where you just print the whole thing front to back, and then you just fold it over and cut it. And then you've got all of your words to practice your open and closed syllable types. And Angie and I have had some conversations, and I hope that you guys have conversations too with one another about the order that you should teach these in. With the open syllable type, I think it goes well with the closed, but I don't always teach that one second. Sometimes I'll go to magic E because magic E comes up quite a bit. And I think the open syllables actually become more like sight words for students very quickly because they're easier. But that might be something to consider. You know your students better. If they're seeing that magic E pattern next, maybe that's the one that they focus on. All right, so our next one is magic E. I love the picture that they have here with the little magic hat. And then underneath, you'll notice we've got our V with the line. So the vowel is saying its name. Then we have a consonant. And then we have our E that is silent. And that's why it is dotted out, like crossed out, because you're not actually hearing that sound. And something I emphasize with students is that it is only jumping over one letter, one consonant to that vowel. And that's how we know it's the magic E pattern. And so that's why this picture is super great of how your hand signal is. The idea is that you are putting your fingers pointing towards the E and then whatever other vowel is in the word. So like in the first example, bone, I will have my pointer finger at the O and then my next finger at the E, and I can point right to both of them. And so I know it's the magic E syllable type, okay? So that's super important, especially once you start teaching students how to follow the dropping rule or the doubling rule for adding on suffixes to these words, because they will start confusing them with closed syllable types, okay? All right, so some more examples. Oh, just kidding. Do you want to jump in here, Angie?
Yeah. So just to kind of jump back a real quick sec, is that as you're introducing magic E, we have to just kind of throw in with kids that E actually has lots of jobs. Silent E has a lot of jobs. You might call it handyman E with his tool belt, you might call the many jobs of silent E, but there's a lot of different things that silent E does. And we're going to be going into this more next month. This is going to be one of our examples of some spelling rules that we should be directly teaching to kids. So this is linked on there. You can get a copy of this, and we're going to be talking more about it next month. But it's nice to kind of throw in there just to say Magic E isn't just a syllable typer. It's not just always jumping back and making a vowel say its name. That's only one of its jobs. And Becca, just as a time check, it's 5:30. So we've got about half an hour is our goal.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so here are some examples of the Magic E. And again, I would have students underline the vowels, and oftentimes I'll have them connect the A to the E. And then underneath write the V with the line over it, the C, and then a little E, and I have them cross it out because that is what is happening with that. And do notice that with U, there are two sounds for U with the Magic E. So say this word, cube, so you're actually hearing U. Now say this word, tube, ooh. It's a different sound, but it's still the same syllable type. So it's important to point that out to students so that they know that that is different. Okay. All right, so multisyllabic words are here with some nonsense words. So this is where it gets to be really fun because these are the words that they're going to be seeing when they read. So it's super important that they understand how closed, open, and Magic E work together. And that's why I say you could probably teach Magic E first before open, but they should be pretty close and the vowel is saying the same thing. So it's super helpful. All right, our next one is R controlled. This is R in sign language. So it's really nice to have this hand signal, which means the same thing in sign language. But it also kind of shows like that it's different from our vowel team, which you'll see that that hand signal looks similar. And this is where the R is controlling the vowel sound. This is the one where I think I'm still learning about all of the sounds of R. So I usually teach AR, OR, and ER. I do identify to students that IR and UR are a part of the R controlled vowels, but I don't spend a lot of time focused on that because not a lot of words follow those spelling patterns, and those are ones they'll have to figure out a way to memorize which one it is. And ER is at the end of words very often as a suffix, and so that's one of the reasons why I focus on that. But if you have a great way to teach that, please let me know. And then I added on the air, which at this point, I'm not really sure if it falls under R controlled. It really seems like it does because there's that R that is controlling the sound to some degree, okay? So I have some real words and some nonsense words for your R controlled. And then again, you should be reviewing all of the syllable types when you're presenting words to students, okay? So like marker has two R controlled, but a word like garlic is going to be R controlled and then a closed syllable type, okay? And you can have students review all of these with real words or nonsense words. All right, vowel team. Oh, so we went from R controlled to vowel team, okay? So that is why the hand signal looks like that. So this is where two vowels go together and they are making one vowel sound. And with the symbols, we often say when two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. That's actually not accurate. That doesn't happen very often. So we should not use that with students, even though it's really cute and fun. And I've also heard too that not everyone can learn that. They don't remember the rhyme for that one. So I would recommend trying to teach them the specific vowel teams. Oops, sorry, I just clicked on the link there again. Okay, so and vowel teams also include Y, W, and GH. So we have rain and say, and there is a spelling pattern for when you use AI and AY. O in coat and bow, E in speed and cheap, I in night and tie. And then I have some nonsense words there for you. And then multisyllabic words as well. So again, presenting ones that have syllable types that they've already been learning, so that way they are just continually repeating everything you've been teaching them. Our next one is our consonant LE. I have seen one where it wants you to do a box around the consonant and the LE. We found this one and we liked the L better. Although if you work with older students, they will probably try and be funny. So just be aware of that. Consonant LE is a tricky one in that, like when to teach it, it's often paired with closed syllables and also sometimes with open, and are controlled, etc. So I think you could teach this one sooner if it's something that is really tripping students up, but it's not as common as, you know, your magic E. And so that's why I don't have it as high on when to teach it list. So consonant LE means that it's the unaccented final syllable that has a consonant and then you add an LE. So for example, oh man, I'm definitely not going to put that on that slide next time. Oh, I am so sorry. Oh, hit this button. Okay, so we have words like little, babble, thistle, noble, wrinkle. Okay, the consonant for little is T, and then adding an LE. Babble, B, adding an LE. Thistle, T, adding an LE, etc. Just know though that there are some, like the word castle, you can't hear the T. And that probably has to do because we're lazy with how we pronounce that word now. So just be careful when you're presenting words that you're only giving them words where you can hear all the sounds. And then eventually you'll teach them ones that don't follow the rules. All right, and then our final syllable type, the diphthong. Okay, so diphthong, some people just put that in with the vowel teams. The only thing though is that diphthongs are really taking two letters typically, and they make a whole new sound, okay? So if you look at OI, it's not saying O, it's not saying I, it's not saying I, it's saying oi, okay? So it's a whole new sound. And then we still can use, we don't have an actual poster for this one, but you can still use the vowel team because they are right next to each other, okay? And I only did real ones for these because there are so many. We have our piggy vowels, we have our bashful vowels, we have our hurt vowels. And then we have other ones, and then we have other ones, and then we have another one, okay? So this is gonna be the hardest one, and this is the one where students will have to do a little bit more memorizing. But you know, some of the words that they come across a lot, like foot, which I have on here twice, they're gonna see it a lot. So they'll be able to spell that one eventually. And they'll be able to tell you, well, it's not closed, because it's not saying ah, okay? So you'll be able to use the syllable types to help them even figure out how to read or spell words. All right, and then I gave some real words and some nonsense words using the diphthongs. And those are the 7 syllable types.
Yay. So now that you know all 7 syllables, you should be able to read these words pretty quickly and easily. And you should be able to identify the syllable type on these words. These 7 words I actually often like starting with or doing presentations if I'm like sharing with coworkers. It's kind of a nice like intro to like say, hey, can you read these? And the reason why you can read these is because you know vowel types, even if you don't know how to name them all before, now you do. So read those to yourself really fast. And then the next page is going to be a little clip of a movie that okay, let me read, my words are getting tangled up. Go ahead to go to the next one, Becca. The next one is going to be a little film of a lesson that I did with first grade. And so lesson 245, Becca, and then let me finish talking real quick. So this was done in the spring of first grade. And this was, I had been teaching the syllable types. My kids at this point in first grade know 5 syllable types, and this is a review. We're using those same words that you saw on the last slide. And I like this because it shows that first graders can do this. And the other thing that I think is important to point out is this exact same lesson could be done in a middle school classroom, because again, a lot of middle schoolers, high schoolers don't know this stuff. I didn't know this a few years ago, a year ago. I didn't know a lot of these. So this exact same lesson this is spring of first grade, but it really could be almost any grade level. Okay, go ahead and show.
I first want you to think it. So don't read it out loud. Don't steal somebody else's thinking. Okay, think that word in your head. Read it out loud. Chopped. Will you show me on your hands only what kind of syllable this is? Ooh, I see a lot of the correct answers out there. Say out loud what kind of syllable it is. How do you know it's a closed syllable? Oh my gosh, you guys are too smart for your own good. Okay, try this one. Don't say it out loud. Read it in your head first quietly. Sit up real tall so your brain works its best. And show me the hand symbol for it. Ooh, there you go. I'm seeing a lot of the right answers. Hello, show me. And what is, read the word. Trade. And what kind of syllable is it? Magic-y. Okay, I'll fix it in a second, okay? Okay, ready? See if I can trick you with this one. Sit up real tall, please. Your brain works best when you sit tall. Okay, read this in your head, not out loud. Show me the hand symbol. Real quiet, please, buddy. And read it out loud. Ooh, this is tricky. I heard fe and I heard fee. So I want you to think twice in your head what kind of syllable it is and what sound it makes. You're right. It's an open syllable. There's no consonant after that vowel. So if it's an open syllable, what does the vowel say? It says its name. It says it's a long sound. It says its name. So what would this word be? Fee. Yep, fee. Good job. Okay, here's the next one. Hey, can you be real quiet for me, please? Thank you, buddy. Okay, think this in your head. Don't read it out loud. And show me the hand symbol for the type of syllable it is. And read it out loud. Therm. And what kind of syllable is it? R controlled. Yeah. Therm. Good job. And I saw a lot of you doing the hand symbol for that. Okay, here's another one. Yeah. Show me the hand symbol for what type of vowel it is. Oh, nice and quiet, please. Show me those hand symbols. Yep, it's a vowel team. It's a vowel team. And read the word out loud. So when it's a vowel team, what is the normal sound? Is it long or short? Short. Try again. Long, yeah. We haven't studied OA as much. We've studied EE and EA, and we've studied AI and AY. We haven't studied OA very much. And OA says O. What does this vowel team say? O. So read the word. You can try. I don't know if there's availability. So read this word in your head one more time. And read it out loud. Cloak. Oak. What's the word? Cloak. And what type of syllable is it? Vowel team. Yeah, good job, you guys. How many types of syllables do you know? 5 syllable types. How many are there? 7. So you only have 2 more to learn, and you'll be able to read every single word in the galaxy. Every single word in the galaxy.
So my kids didn't quite know that they're also going to need to know a whole bunch of prefixes and suffixes to read every word in the galaxy. So they still have some learning to do before they can read quite every word. But you could see that first graders can learn syllable types and can apply it. And that lesson I feel like could be done in multi-levels. Okay, so we're going to jump in now into like what to do when students, when we're trying to teach kids to decode multisyllabic words. And I'm going to touch on some stuff and introduce some stuff and not go into this super detailed. So there are these posters in front of us. These are some common syllable division rules. And some people spend a lot of time directly teaching these, and that's great. And that's okay. We're not going to go into them as much as like we did the 7 syllable types. It's really just this slide. You can get this, you can get these little kind of fun posters in lots of ways. And there are some rules like this that are great for them to teach. But you can see like the, there has to be some flexibility with it too. So they're like the camel rule and the tiger rule both have one consonant in the middle, but at one place, you know, the camel rule, the syllable ends after that. So the first syllable is closed. The tiger rule, the syllable ends before that consonant. So the first syllable is open. So they can be pronounced in different ways. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But just know that these are out here. These are great to teach. There may even be a few that aren't on here. This might not be the exclusive list. But there are some rules for how to tackle a word and divide it into syllables when you're decoding, when you're reading. Another trick in when applying the rules or just tackling any word is when a student has a word in front of them and they're trying to decode it. So they're trying to read it. Going through these 4 steps and kind of 5 steps if they already know silent E. So there's really 5 if they know silent E. So starting by always looking for affixes, which are prefixes and suffixes, because those don't follow the syllable types generally. So look for prefixes and suffixes and scoop those together. Those are going to be things that you read separately. Then within that base word, look and some words, a lot of, you know, when you first start this, I would just not even use prefixes and suffixes, but as they are older and more experienced and they're looking at an unknown word, look for prefixes and suffixes, and then just simply say, how many vowels are there? How many vowels do you see in that word? When you're looking for the vowels, are they together? Are they apart? Or are they together? And that will tell them if there's some vowel teams going on. Is there a silent E or a magic E? So looking for those kind of things. And then how many syllables? So in the end, they should be able to say I see, you know, in butterfly, I see 1, 2, 3 syllable. I see 3 vowels if that Y is a vowel, and they should know it is most of the time. Are they apart or together? They're all apart. So that means there's 3 different syllables. The word wait, I see 2 vowels. They're together. So that means it's 1 syllable because they're next to each other. In rainbow, I see 3 vowels, and you might have them underline it, circle them, something. In rainbow, I see 3 vowels, but 2 of them are together and 1 of them's apart. So the 2 that are together would be a syllable. The 1 that's apart would be a syllable. Or maybe you would do OW in rainbow. So actually there might be 4. They might not know that W is a vowel there, and that's okay. Cupcake, I see 3 vowels, and they're apart, but there's a magic E that makes that A say A. So there's really 2 syllables. So kind of going through that question is another way, even if they don't know all those rules, the rabbit, tiger type rules. And then, go ahead.
Can I jump in real quick
Yeah,
too?
please.
Something that I learned too when I went through an intensive training for helping kids with dyslexia is that we as adults don't read from left to right, one sound at a time. We actually use our eyes and find the vowels. That's what we do when we read. And I think there was a study done that like followed the eye movements. And so when we're reading a word, we're looking for the vowels already. So we're just trying to teach the kids to do the same thing. Okay.
And then just to remember that when they are reading and decoding multisyllabic words, those long words, that there's some really important things that they're going to have to figure out once they figure out how many syllables they are, what type of syllables they are, if the vowels are long or short sounds, or what the vowel sounds are. Then the other thing that they're going to have to play with is the accented syllable, which syllables are said a little louder and fully say the vowel sound. So what syllable is most strongly pronounced and which syllables are unstressed or unaccented and probably a schwa. So when I go to sound out a word, I need to play around with it. If I sound out banana, I might go, oh yeah, it's 3 open syllables. So it must be bay, nay, nay. And I have to think like, oh, that's not a word that I know. And so I have to just play around with it as a reader. And we need to teach our kids to do that too. So I think should we show these 2 videos real quick?
Let's show the first one.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
You can.
So this is you can go back, you'll get the slideshow and you'll get these live links. And this is a woman that shows a strategy on how to find an accident syllable. And it was really interesting to me because I have signs of dyslexia and I have a really hard time, if you give me a word, I have a really hard time saying whether a syllable is accented or not, or stressed or not. It's really hard for me to hear that. And I tried this trick and I was like, oh my gosh, this totally works. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could identify an accented syllable. So go ahead.
I get all set up. Say the word bacon.
Bacon.
How many syllables do you hear?
2.
Okay, let's see if we can see which one is the strongest. Say bacon.
Bacon.
Again.
Bacon.
Can you see when you said the word bacon, which one's strongest?
Yeah, bacon.
Which one? The first or the second?
The first.
Excellent. Let's try another.
So this is just the voice memo on any phone. And when I found this, I opened my voice memo and I was saying all kinds of words. And for the first time, like I said, for the first time, I could really see the accented syllable. And we do say it louder and we say it clearer. And the voice memo lines show that it's a bigger sound. So it makes it more multisensory and more tangible for our students with signs of dyslexia that really can't maybe hear that as easily. Okay.
And then the other video was showing how you could use your finger to hear or to feel how the accented syllable is longer. So take a look at that if you're interested in something like that. It's another sensory type of thing. Did you want to say anything about the other video?
This link to the schwa is a person that has made a lot of fun videos about how to explain different syllable types. And there's a slide that we'll show you and hopefully play if we have time. So that's a fun video that explains what a schwa is that students will love.
Especially older students.
Yeah. So the key takeaway when teaching students to read multisyllabic words is the word flex. And we should use this word with students and we should tell them if they're struggling with it, okay, flex that out, be flexible, try the different vowel sound, flex where you're dividing the syllables and teach them to be flexible when sounding out words. So knowing the syllable types allows them to try different strategies, and knowing how to divide those syllables, teach them strategies to try, but then they have to kind of flex with it and try stressing different syllables and try different ways of dividing the word to really find the word that they recognize. This doesn't work if you're reading a word that you wouldn't recognize out loud. So if I'm reading a completely unknown word, I can sound it out to the best of my abilities and I might have a mistake on which one I think is, I might mistake the word that I think is accented or a schwa sound, but I could kind of get most of it. But most times when kids are reading, they're going to be able to recognize a word, or we can be there to teach the word and they'll be able to find it. So like if I'm reading banana and I read bay, nay, nay, I can try to, with flexibility, find it. And once I get to banana and get schwas in there, I can go, oh yeah, that's something I know. That must be the word, it matches. So flexing until you find it.
One of my favorite things that you can purchase or you can make yourself, and then Angie's also made an example that you'll see in a second, are syllaboards, which I have right here. And the idea is that students are spelling words using syllable types, which I'm a bigger fan of than memorizing spelling lists, which I don't think we should be doing. You definitely need to do some memorizing within the syllable types, like when you come to the vowel teams and the diphthongs, but other than that, we should be teaching syllables, because once you know how to do the syllable types, you can spell words like advocate, okay? Because I know that the first syllable is a closed syllable type, ad, vo is open, and then Kate is that magic E. And I've used this with students a lot and the kids love it. And I'm able to tell students, like if they were spelling subtract and they put the B on the second syllable board, I could say, all right, you have an open syllable on this first syllable. That means the vowel is saying its name. So it's saying Sue. The word is subtract. How can you close it off? And then they're hearing the syllable type again. They're hearing it needs to be closed off. So it just makes it really concrete. And again, kids love it.
I didn't want to buy syllable boards, so I made my own. And this is a video of a student using one of these, just a paper copy of syllable boards, basically. Starts off kind of quiet, but there should be volume coming.
Is napkin. What's the word?
Napkin.
Good. How many syllables?
2.
Okay. And then we write it as a whole word because we don't really have spaces in the middle of a word. Good. Can you read as a whole word?
Napkin.
Good. Try fantastic. Can you see how many syllables there are?
2.
Fantastic.
3.
It's kind of hard to hear, but I'm going to point out some things afterwards about it.
Say it out loud. Try that. Say each syllable out loud by itself.
Fantastic.
So what syllable are you writing here? What's just that syllable by itself? Let's just say it out loud one more time.
Fantastic.
Say the whole word again.
Fantastic.
Okay, say it syllable by syllable.
Fantastic.
Good. You didn't know for sure if it was a C or K, so you guessed, right? That's okay. Good. Can you read the whole word?
Fantastic.
Good. Try the word consistent. What's the word? Consistent. What's the word? Oh, that's a really hard word to say. Consistent. Do you know what it means?
No.
Consistent means like always the same. So you are consistently a great student. Consistent means that you do it all the time. Let's do it syllable by syllable first. Consistent. What is it?
Consistent.
Consistent. Let's do first the syllable Consistent. What's the second syllable?
Sis.
Yeah. Consistent. Good. Now let's read it syllable by syllable.
Consistent.
Yeah. Say it one more time.
Consistent.
Can you say it fast now?
Consistent.
Yeah. Can you read the whole word?
Consistent.
Yeah. What does it mean?
Like the same.
Yeah. Always the same. Good.
So I love this video for a few things. So a few things to point out. She's a second grader. She's currently a second grader. She does have signs of dyslexia. You could hear it with the word fantastic. She could say the word correctly as a whole, but when she went to go break it into syllables, she had changed the third syllable to kick. So what I would do for that is I would give her more phonological awareness practice on hearing syllables. So we would do some work without writing on taking a word and breaking it into syllables. And I would really make sure she said the syllables with the correct sound. So that would be a phonological awareness activity that I would work with her on, which is why we didn't go into it a lot here. And I know I didn't, there were some teachable moments in this video that I didn't take, but just to know that I was noticing her mistakes and thinking about, okay, so we need some more phonological awareness with hearing syllables and isolating syllables. And then the word consistent was fascinating to me because it was a word that she at the beginning could not repeat. So when I said what the word's consistent, what's the word? She wasn't able to repeat it. And she wasn't able to repeat it she tried 3 or 4 times and couldn't repeat the word. And then it got to the point where I had to give it to her syllable by syllable. So I said, the first syllable is kun, sound that out. The second syllable is sis. And by the end, she could say the word, she could read the word, and she remembered what it meant. So this was a great way to introduce a vocabulary word to her and do it syllable by syllable. You can see that she didn't spell it perfectly. And again, there's some teachable moments that weren't in here, but it was also because you can't teach everything all in one lesson. So the word consistent was a vocabulary word. She learned how to say it, and she learned the syllable types in it. The syllable kun has a schwa in it because we don't say con, we say kun. So she spelled it with a U because that was the sound that she heard. And so if I had taught her already about schwa, I could have said that's a schwa and it's actually spelled O, and that would have been a really quick snippet to teach her, but she hasn't been exposed to that information yet. There's also a spelling rule to know if the syllable sis should be spelled CIS or SIS. And she hasn't learned that spelling rule yet. So I just let her kind of do some of her best guessing based on what she already knows. But you can see that we can use syllable types to also introduce vocabulary words and take really hard words that the kids can't even really say and break them down into chunks, and she could spell it and say it and learned what it meant.
All right, and we are 1 minute out, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on the next slides, but please take a look at them because we have some more tips on how to help students as well as practicing decoding. And you'll see that once you get the slides that we break the words up and we include some nonsense words so that you can see how to practice reading them. And someone did find an error in one of my previous slides. Thank you for helping me edit because I still make mistakes too. But we will have those corrected for you too. And then feel free to practice on your own, and you can always reach out to us if you still have questions. These are just a few options for teaching or learning how to teach and teaching. And I'm going to add some more to that because I actually did take a class when I lived in Minnesota that taught all this information, but I didn't understand it because in the classes I was observing, they weren't doing it like how we've demonstrated today. These are the videos that are really fun. Take a look at them, especially if you're working with some older students that maybe think this is lame, but it's actually not. Super cool. All right, and then we have some more resources there, including Decoding Dyslexia of Oregon, and then some other places where you can learn more outside of what we have presented tonight. Okay, coming up, like Angie said, we are going to focus in on spelling some more in February, and then in March we go into vocabulary and morphology and probably etymology as well. So we hope that you'll join us again. And for those of you that keep joining, keep on coming. We are doing a 101 that goes over the basics of dyslexia coming up here in January on the 20th. So you're welcome to join that as well. We don't dive in as deep like we've been doing on these sessions, but it is helpful if you haven't been to it to get kind of a basis of understanding on dyslexia. Angie, did you?
Yeah, this is another Decoding Dyslexia thing that's coming up in a week or two, January 20th, right? 22nd, Saturday, January 22nd. They are having a great program that's a Latino literacy summit. And our Decoding Dyslexia contact told me to make sure to mention that it is also in Spanish, and these flyers are available in Spanish. So this is a great way to get some more information too, especially about serving our Latino students. This is for parents and teachers, so you can advertise this to parents also.
Our contact information will be in the slides, so feel free to email us, especially if you have ideas on how to teach any of this, because we love learning. We love to nerd out on it. And again, we'll be emailing you the PDUs and then obviously all of this. And we don't have a Google Forms link because we didn't get to that, you know, still on winter break. Thank you everyone for coming. It's been a pleasure teaching you what we've learned so far. And we hope that you guys have some ideas that you can share back with us. So we hope to see you next month.